Hi, I'm Greg. I'm the lead singer for Lipstick.
And I'm Steve. I'm the bassist.
And welcome to the Lipstick panel. Today on the Lipstick panel, we are talking about Steve's favorite album in the Kiss catalog. We are talking about Vinnie Vincent's debut solo album, The Vinnie Vincent Invasion.
I feel like 80% of the statements in that paragraph were just lies, flat out.
I mean, well, look, this is a Vinnie Vincent episode. I mean, that's what the man does, lies to everyone around him.
Aren't you trying to audition to be his vocalist?
I mean, he hasn't responded to my message, so I'm probably not getting the gig, and I don't care. And look, it's a Nashville show at Rocketown. I would insist on only being paid with exposure for that gig.
You'd insist on being paid in drugs.
In drugs at the straight edge Christian venue.
Yes.
So yes, we're talking about the debut Vinnie Vincent solo album, and we have some excellent guests returning to the program. We've got Mr. Allen Tate from Ages of Rock return to the show. Welcome, Allen.
Thank you for having me.
And we've got our favorite Kiss guest of all time, Mr. Julian Gill. Welcome back to the program, my friend.
You know, keep humping my leg. I'm enjoying it. But I thought we were going to talk about Vinnie's debut solo album, which, of course, is Lick It Up.
Well...
Been there, done it, got the t-shirt, right, guys?
Right. Well, hey, there were a couple songs on that album that were solely written by Gene Simmons, so not completely a Vinnie Vincent debut solo, but yeah, I think it's probably good we go around the panel, talk about our history with Vinnie Vincent and this album in particular. You know what? Let's start off with you, Julian, with your thoughts on Vinnie Vincent as an entity and this album, especially given the recent news, which, for those who don't know, we record our podcast in advance, so this will probably come out like a month and a half after we record it. So by the time this episode comes out, I expect 5 new Vinnie Vincent controversies to have happened, so this won't be accurate by the time it comes out. So,
but as long as
are very conservative,
enough, the episode is probably going to be timely.
Right. So by the time this comes out, Vinnie Vincent will still have done something controversial. This episode will still be relevant. So, Julian, let's start with you and your Vinnie Vincent history, both current and past.
You know, I think by the time this episode comes out, Vinnie Vincent will have done so much stuff that it will have gone out of style, come back in style, gone out of style, and come back in style again. He does so much that's strange. You know, when this album came out in 1986, I threw it in the garbage.
Yeah.
I could not handle the image of the band. I couldn't handle the over-the-top histrionics. I couldn't handle a lot about this album. It was only, 30 years later, not 30, but, quite many years later that I had obviously damaged a lot of brain cells that I started to enjoy it a lot more. I started listening to the melodies and some of the hooks and appreciate a little bit more of his songwriting. So it was not love at first listen by any means. It's something that kind of grew on me, or I kind of succumbed to. And as far as my personal thing with Vinnie is, I like him. I respect him as an artist for what he was 30 years ago, because you can't call him an artist these days. A very talented songwriter who had a moment in history, which is kind of represented by a lot of these songs of where they could have fit in on Kiss albums had he stayed with the band instead of getting himself fired.
So, Alan, how about you? What's your experience with Vinnie Vincent and this album in particular?
Well, this album here, I liked it from the get-go. What's the term I'm looking for? Dang it. I have that problem where I forget words while I'm saying them. He has the, I hope you edit this because I'm a big enough idiot on my own.
Yeah, don't worry, I'll edit it out.
The image never bothered me. Because, it was 1986, glam was the thing, or glam was starting to become a bigger thing, whatever. So I didn't have a problem with it at the time. I didn't realize Vinnie had the history that he had. I didn't know why Vinnie wasn't in Kiss anymore. I just knew that he had moved on after the Lick It Up album. So when this album came out, I was elated, And other than the fact that he plays at the time he played the guitar like a very angry bumblebee, Other than that, I thought it was great.
Well, I'll go next. We'll close out with our headliner, Steve.
Yeah.
As per usual. So, as listeners of our show have heard before, I became a Kiss fan in 2004 after seeing the band on the Rock the Nation tour. And my first knowledge of Vinnie Vincent as an entity in Kiss, my dad had the CD, The Very Best of Kiss, and I looked at the songwriting credits, and I saw Vincent Cusano co-wrote I Love It Loud, and then Vinnie Vincent wrote Lick It Up, and I didn't realize they were two separate people, or the same person at the time. They just, the names were different in the liner notes. I thought they were two different people. And then eventually I saw Kiss Extreme Close-Up, spelled extreme, as per the 90s. And that was the first time I heard the members of Kiss talk about Vinnie Vincent, where they said he was the most self-destructive man they'd ever met, and he would hang himself as he was being given the keys to the kingdom. And so I saw Vinnie...
Wait, is that really the metaphor they used?
Yes.
That's terrible.
Yes.
That is almost
Aren't these guys
word for word
lyricists?
verbatim.
Oh, wait,
Well, that's
I've
almost
listened to their
word for
lyrics.
word
Never mind.
verbatim. What Dean said.
So, yeah, but then there's a clip of Vinnie on the Creatures tour with the Ankh makeup, shredding up a storm during Dr. Love. I'm like, whoa, this is badass. I had no knowledge of who he was, but I thought, this is really cool. There's a makeup design I hadn't seen before. The guy is just doing an insane solo. And then through, KissFAQ.com, I kind of learned the history of Vinnie Vincent and went out and, enjoyed the stuff he did with Kiss, and then eventually found the Vinnie Vincent Invasion album and loved it because it was ridiculous, over-the-top glam. A lot of glam I like in a very tongue-in-cheek kind of sense where I don't... I recognize the ridiculousness of it. I understand how silly it is, but that's kind of part of the fun. The first guitar I ever got was a blue Flying V Jackson because I couldn't find a hot pink Flying V Jackson like Vinnie's. And then I eventually got a hot pink Flying V Jackson like Vinnie's, so...
That's right, Greg owns multiple Flying V Jacksons.
Because of Vinnie Vincent. And so the entire first Lipstick album was recorded on that blue Flying V, aside from, the acoustic track or whatever. So Vinnie's been a big influence on my music as a songwriter. As a guitar player, I'll get into my thoughts as to what he does on this album, but I think the best, summation of this album for me is at my high school grad party, I made a mix of 10 different mix CDs of just different bands that I liked. And a Vinnie Vincent Invasion song came on one of those mixes. And one of my aunts, a relative I never saw very often, came out to me and said, "This is the most obnoxious music I have ever heard in my entire life." And I think that kind of sums up the Vinnie Vincent album pretty well. Steve, how about you?
So I was introduced to Vinnie Vincent Invasion mostly by Greg telling stories such as the aforementioned, or about how he got fired from his own band, which became Slaughter, or something like that. And then I listened to Boys Are Gonna Rock because one year for Greg's self-indulgent birthday show, all of his bands were required to do a Kiss cover. So Regdar and the Fighters did I Was Made for Lovin' Dudes, and
Lipstick did Tomorrow off Unmasked.
Lipstick did Tomorrow. And then for our fake punk band, where we don't actually write songs ahead of time, afterwards Greg told us, yeah, we totally played Boys Are Gonna Rock. And I said, what? I have no idea what you're even talking about. And then he showed me the footage where he just hit a note and then wailed on the whammy bar for about 15 seconds and said, there we go, we played Boys Are Gonna Rock. Then I went and listened to the actual song and was like, all right, you're not wrong. And then I listened to this album a week ago. I was not impressed. My reaction was much like Julian's initially, that it was I'm going to throw this in the trash or drink until I like it.
Yeah, just give it 30 years.
Yeah, in 30 years, you were like, oh, so that was a great Troll album. So, general consensus amongst the panel, do we like this album?
Nah.
Yeah.
I do.
I will say it has its moments. How's that for being on the fence?
Yeah, and I will say I love this album, but also the thing to remember is I'm a big fan of the genre. I love glam rock. I love glam metal. I'm one of those guys who can tell the difference between the different hair bands. Steve and I were discussing this the other night when I went to go see his 90s cover band, and how he couldn't tell the difference between a lot of the 90s alt-rock bands, towards the end of the decade, that all kind of sounded the same. And I'm like, well, yeah, but, with the 80s bands, I can totally tell the difference between Danger, Danger, and Kicks. And...
says here we're Rat.
Right? So I'm a guy who really loves the genre, can, spot the differences between the bands. So if you're huge into the genre like I am, then yeah, this is a great staple of hair metal. If you're not a huge hair metal fan, yeah, this album, you're probably going to hate this. This is not the best album for like the casual music listener. But I think we should just get into the ranking and talk about the songs.
Let's get it over with. Woo!
All right, so for first-time listeners of the program, each of the panelists votes on the songs from best to least best. Best song on a 10-song album gets 10 points from the panelist. Least best gets 1 point. We add up the votes and then discuss the ranking from least amount of points to most points. And the song that got the least points on the debut Vinnie Vincent Invasion album, I Wanna Be Your Victim.
I put this one second to last. All of my notes say on this one is this album is really pretty awful.
So what about it? What's so awful about it, Steve? Describe the awfulness. I went into great detail about why I thought that Gojira album was awful.
That's fair. All right, so there's two main things that I think that this album sort of gets wrong. The first one is its production, and the second one is the songwriting. Sorry, I just wanted to be as a trolly as possible. So the production on this album I found consistently to be really, really bad. Everything has too much reverb on it, except for the lead guitar, which has basically no reverb on it and sounds like a really dry, they plugged a head directly into the interface kind of thing, where it's just not particularly interesting guitar tone, and everything else is washed out and buried and, muddy, really. And it just makes the whole thing unpleasant to listen to. And then this album does a lot of the same thing that the last few Kiss albums have done, where they're really focusing on, we can hit the high notes because we're good singers, but they're not hitting interesting notes. It's just hit the same high note a bunch of times in a row instead of writing a good melody.
Yeah, I would say I like Robert Fleischman as a vocalist, but I don't really like a lot of the melodies he does on this album are a bit one note for me as well. And so that's why, it's more of a album listening experience for me where a lot of the songs do kind of flow together, except for some real standout great cuts. But I don't necessarily think there's a bad song on this album. I enjoy each cut. I like the guitar tone. I like the drenched in reverb. I like how over the top and silly it is. Like, this is hair metal to its farthest illogical extreme. Like, the shredding on this album is devoid of most sense of melody. It is just balls to the wall guitar insanity. Like, everything about it is over the top. Like, how high the vocals are, how drenched in reverb everything, how shred-tastic it is. Like, everything's just pushed to this, like, ridiculous extreme level, and that's part of the fun of it. And within it, I think these are songs where if there was more restraint, you could put a lot of these on a Kiss album, and with like Gene and Paul's tinkering could be very, very strong songs. So you could take a song like this and Gene saying, no, you're using way too much reverb. You need to tone down the solo. We need to adjust the melody to make it a little catchier. I think a lot of these would work very well as Kiss songs. And so, I mean, basically any song on this album with tinkering could have been a great fit on Animalize. This song is no exception to that, but I think the individual components of this song, I think, are weaker than like the individual components of the other songs, where other songs might have better verse riffing or better choruses, and this is the least hooky song on the album. And when it's a hair metal album, the least hooky song is the worst song every time.
So who produced this album?
Vinnie and Dana.
Okay, so it was Vinnie himself who produced it. Because, yeah,
yes,
it's
all his fault.
I got a distinct, this was mixed by the guitarist vibe.
So Steve, remember our guitar player who I won't mention on mic, who I kept comparing to Vinnie Vincent? Do those comparisons make even more sense now?
Oh.
We're not mentioning his name, but do those comparisons make more...
Turn the guitar up.
Yeah, this is obviously written by a guitar player, this entire album. But what I'll say is, for a guitar player who just wants to shred, Vinnie Vincent can write a great pop song. So what do you guys think about I Want to Be Your Victim in particular?
Well, for me, that was my number 5 song.
How about you, Julian? What's your thoughts on this track?
And like Alan, this is my number 5 track. It's got Vinnie's signature all over it, and I think I agree with the part that you said that it would have been perfect on Animalize. Just imagine Gene Simmons coming in and burn bitch burning it. I mean, that could have taken some of the more dire parts out of the song, mainly the sound, because structurally, it's not bad. In terms of the lyrics, it's not bad, but like everything on the album, it sounds pretty bad when you just listen to the finished product. This is actually one of the songs that I'd love to hear Mark Slaughter's version of.
So did Mark do a version of this, or like do it live?
I can neither confirm or deny. I'm only aware of one track from this album having been re-recorded, or I only have one with Mark's vocals cut on it in a studio. I would hope that there's more, but who knows? So
got it. Before we get you in legal trouble, as is per usual with discussing Vinnie Vincent for any of us, let's just move on to the next track.
Yeah.
Next up on the list, we have Animal. Which I wonder, would this have been kind of the title cut off Animalize? Was this one of the ones where Gene and Paul were aware of the song? It was a song tossed around for Animalize, and maybe that became the idea for the album title? I could very much see this being a Kiss song and being reworked to be like a big song off that album. Very much so. I think until we get to the very top tracks, I don't have as much to say about it, because a lot of these songs follow a very similar formula. We're like, all right, here's some cool riffing during the verse and big kind of gang chorus, catchy vocal during the chorus, and ridiculous shred guitar solo that is devoid of melody and is just full shred. So there's not as much for me to say about this track because it fits in so well with a lot of the rest of the album. I think each song stands well on its own as a distinct catchy song, but I will say, as a cohesive listening piece, as an album, I can see how this can blend together very well for some people.
Yeah, all I really had on this one was that I thought the gang chorus hook was pretty good, which does lend credence to the idea it might have once been intended to be a Kiss song, and that Kiss was pretty big on everybody's singing this part, so let's stack up those vocals.
So, Steve, do you agree with Gene and Paul saying, no, Vinnie, we need to restrain you a little bit and hold you back in order to make these songs good? Because you heard Look It Up and Creatures. Those were the 2 albums he's done with Kiss.
I'm not entirely sure about that. I feel like the trick with that kind of ridiculous soloing is you just need to arrange the song correctly around it. So if they had said, yeah, Vinnie, you go as nuts as you want to in this 30-second section that's your solo, otherwise tasteful riffs that enhance the overall song, that could have worked. I think they probably could have given him a little more leash to work with,
a little more wiggle room, because there was some shredding on the Look It Up album, just not anywhere as insane as this.
Yeah, no.
What do you think, Julian? What do you think, Alan? Do you think that Gene and Paul were appropriate in putting the leash on Vinnie?
Absolutely.
This album's evidence of that, isn't it? I mean, Animal it is pretty clear, that I think Vinnie has mentioned that these were some of the songs that he was working on, prior to leaving Kiss. So, there's so much on this that could really have benefited from Gene and Paul saying, Vin, and like I think Steve said, it's, do you really need all that? Do you really need all that? Do you need 1,000 notes when maybe 14 properly phrased notes would do the same thing? Animal's a good example of that, because it's so far down the list on the songs that I like that my notes about it are really, it took a pretty good Warrior song and ruined it. And the only positive thing I can say about this song, that it came as a really, really cool promotional Pink 7-inch single. That's the only thing I can say positive about this song.
Yeah, I mean, I love all the Pink on this album. I love the
art direction, brilliant.
The art direction is brilliant. I love how freaking glam this album is.
Music pretty meh, but
No, this was one of my go-to CDs in high school, in terms of just like putting it on and not skipping. This is just a great cohesive experience for me.
You just get a little bit tired of animals in the 1980s. The Kiss-related animals, you've got Animalize, you've got Animal,
White
and then
Tiger.
Frelly's White Tiger, and you've got I'm an Animal, Frelly's Comet. So it's just animal overload.
This is about Paul Stanley's dick. Now this girl's gonna get some of his dick.
Paul Stanley's dick is an animal.
Right, his animal-like dick. Although, depending on what kind of animal you're talking, that might just be really embarrassing in that humans, I think... no.
Well, now, for the record, Gene Simmons is the one that's the animal because his snake's alive and it's ready to bite.
See, there we go.
And that's how they got the title to that album, Animal-like. No, Animalize.
How do you make your penis bite someone?
STDs.
Oh.
Moving right along, next up on the list is Twisted.
Gregory.
I need a disappointed sounding Goku saying the word Gregory.
Just pitch correct it.
Gregory. That would be a difficult edit.
All right, so Twisted. Steve, you liked the intro on this.
Yeah, I thought I had a good intro. That's about it. Yeah. Again, this album, a lot of it, like, I couldn't give it too critical of a listen just because as I was going through it, I was like, all of these songs are a similar tier of boring, overperformant vocals and mediocre production that makes me not want to listen to this album.
Yeah, I think with this album, you know, I am benefiting once again from being a huge fan of the genre and being able to really notice the differences. Where when we did the Loudness album, you enjoyed it, but you didn't notice the differences between the songs because you're not a connoisseur of the genre.
Right.
Much the same way where I'm listening to Gojira, and I'm not really noticing the differences between the songs too much because I'm just not a fan of the genre. I don't have the shorthand to really understand those nuances.
Right.
I think that's a very good way to put that.
And so, I mean, this song, yeah, it's a catchy hair metal song. I think what this song does really well is that I've heard so many people use the word twisted to describe Vinnie Vincent as a person and how his musicality is awkward and disjointed and a little bit creepy. And this song kind of captures the essence of that really well, where just a lot of his descending riffs are just really good about like building a sense of tension musically. And he did that a lot on the Lick It Up album where he had these descending riffs that just, were just build up of tension. And you were just really wanting, it to, resolve musically and release. And those songs never did that. They just kept the tension going the entire time. And so this is a good example of that aspect of his songwriting. But it does get a little bit lost in the over-the-top production, but, if you're like me and the over-the-top production is making you laugh the entire way through this record, you're like, hey, look, another song where it's ridiculous. I'm loving it.
I guess never resolving your solos makes sense if you're the sort of the guitarist who never wants to stop playing, right?
Yep.
If you just want to shred forever, you can set up every line of the solo so that it doesn't sound like it's going to resolve yet. And your rhythm section just has to keep looping.
Well, I mean, I'm just mainly talking about like the riffing. Like a lot of these, like the verse riffs in this are just build up of tension. And I think that's actually a very clever thing to do musically because it does put you on the edge of your seat where you're just like, what's going to happen? When is this going to finally,
when is this going to end? How many more notes can he play?
Yeah, pretty much.
10,000 it is.
But yeah, it's a cool song, but one of the weaker ones for me on the album overall, where I put it second from the bottom. But yeah, next up on the list, we have a song where there is huge discrepancy on the panel. This was almost the number one song for me, where the top three on the album were very difficult for me to choose from. And I actually think this is a phenomenal song, a great track. We have the closer of the album, Invasion, next on the list. As I was talking about, some of the other tracks getting lost in the production and the song's not working in the context of the album where I get that, like this to me is a great track. This is a perfect, awesome rock tune of the era. And I can understand, like, once you get to this point in the album, listener fatigue and not caring and not noticing how much better it is than a lot of the stuff you just heard.
Yep. But
I think this is a brilliant track because I think there's more musical space throughout it than the other tracks where there's the instruments have room to breathe. You've got that, that heavy chugging guitar going on throughout it, just like building this sense of epicness, like it's building to that huge, awesome chorus. and it's one of the better solos on the album, a little bit more melodic, and it gives you the sense of like aliens coming and taking over the earth, but like in a glam song that's also kind of metal. This is a great tune. Just the build up throughout is great. I think the vocal melody is much stronger than on most of the tracks, and it's just a phenomenal chorus. And I think it's just a big epic album closer and just a fantastic way to close off the album.
Best song on the album for me, by far. It provides the dynamic contrast. All the weaknesses in the other songs are resolved, and you'll notice that it's got a co-writer, and that's like a recurring theme for me on this album, that the songs that have a co-writer, there's only 3, are heads and tails above the other ones because they've had input in some way from someone else, and it's not just a matter of Vinnie, going off on his own. This one just drives. I love the pace of the song. I love the chorus, the lyrics, Robert's vocal. It's just, if there was more Invasion like this with Robert, I would have not thrown that album away in 1986. I would have enjoyed it a hell of a lot more because it is, a different pace, a different character, a different beast. Except for that god-awful outro, which I have to edit out of.
The outro is great.
I got rid of it.
The outro,
that outro is the worst part of the
drives me
whole damn
nuts.
album.
That outro is such a tremendous troll. I love it.
Well, that's the one that loops forever if you have it on vinyl, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so, I mean, again, whoever designed the packaging for this album was really good at their job.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like a spaceship, but it's a guitar. But that's awesome. I'm sorry, I sincerely love this. So for the two of you who ranked this as by far the worst song on the album, why is it by far the worst?
Well, for me, I like the whole album, and it's the same thing when we did the Lick It Up album and when we did the Night at the Opera album. You have to put one at 1, and you have to put one at 10. It's just a matter of which one.
It's fair.
And I think, Greg, you summarized my take on this song pretty much yourself, like listener fatigue. Just by this point in the album, it's like, all right, I'm done with this.
Well, yeah, I know with you at this point doing the podcast, like if something goes on too long, you're just like, I don't care. My rankings are just in order.
Yep.
So, but I think
I didn't even listen all the way through the CD version of the outro just because I knew it was like, oh, this is just going to repeat for another 15 seconds. All right, pop it out.
I mean, no, that's completely fair. But what I would say is maybe give this song like another chance in isolation, just separate from the album, and just look at it as like kind of just like a cool, like kind of glammy power metal song about aliens. Like in isolation from the rest of the album, I think you'd probably appreciate it. It's just by the time you got to it, you were just in no mood to give Vinnie Vincent a chance.
Nope.
But I think this is one that would grow on you. Like, wait, aliens, power metal, and glam? Yeah, okay, I'm kind of into this. So I would say give this one another chance sometime. All right. Any other thoughts on Invasion before we move on to the next track?
These lyrics don't look like they're about aliens.
Sex aliens.
Sex aliens?
I think Greg wants to be probed.
I mean, I do glam rock, so...
You said doo-doo.
All right. Well, as we're continuing to talk about this doo-doo album, next up on the list, in Steve's opinion, not necessarily mine, next up on the list we have Do You Want to Make Love? Now, this is...
everything I just said about Invasion benefiting from having a co-writer does not work on this one because I hate this song. It was down. It's my second from bottom. It is...
Now, I might have a little bit of bias in favor of this track because I think maybe are you familiar with the Sack Trick Kiss tribute album, Sheep and Kiss Makeup?
Oh, yeah. One of the best.
Yes.
So the two Vinnie Vincent Invasion songs they covered were Boys Are Gonna Rock and this one. And so I might have an increased appreciation of this track because of the troll cover of this song that I heard. So the fact that this comedy funk metal band covered this song in such a ridiculous over-the-top way has elevated it very highly for me. We're like, yes, it's that goofy song that Sack Trick covered. And it's also, I think it has a really good groove to it. It's, I think it's the side B opener. The rocket in my pocket, just really ridiculous, dumb lyrics, but, giant hooks in the chorus. I think it's a really fun song, and exemplifies like a lot of the worst parts of hair metal as a genre, but it takes all those bad elements of hair metal and just takes them to the extreme and just embraces them in such a ridiculous way where, yeah, I love it. It's almost like a lot of this album is almost like a parody of hair metal.
It takes it past the extreme into the absurd. I mean, 1986, you had Poison coming out. This song is like a good Poison song, which makes it a god-awful song.
Whoa. Hey, I love Poison. They're one of my favorite bands. They're like top 20.
No one's perfect.
Look,
That was a good one, Julian.
Poison is basically just like the Kiss of the 80s. Just simple, catchy songs, simple riffs, solos that are hummable songs within a song. They're basically just Kiss of the 80s.
Without the talent or the songs. I
Come
always
on.
thought Faster Pussycat was the Kiss of the 80s.
Come on, Talk Dirty to Me is great.
Danger. Yeah, I'll give you that.
Cry
but,
Tough? That is like a Kiss, empowerment anthem. Like that was on my Believe in Yourself playlist along with Crazy Crazy Nights and Silence.
Oh wait, I've got that drop here. There we go.
Find the drop, Steve. And Stay Hungry by Twisted Sister. That was also on my Believe in Yourself playlist. But yeah,
okay. Well, your taste isn't all bad.
Just mostly bad.
Just mostly bad. This guy who likes The Elder as his favorite Kiss album and thinks Poison's a great band. What great musical taste he has. He also loves the Vinnie Vincent Invasion album.
I just like that you managed to trick a bunch of Kiss fans into being on your podcast where you talk about how your favorite Kiss album is The Elder all the time.
Yeah, really, this is actually just one long Elder podcast.
That's why Bill wants to be on your show so desperately badly.
We're secretly an episode of Nathan for You. We're going to have to edit that out in post.
I don't even know what that is.
Good. Obscure references that only I understand, just the way it is meant to be.
All right, so Do You Want to Make Love? Steve.
I understood that reference.
You did. Steve, you love this song, right?
Where did I put this one? I put this one towards the bottom. I thought the pre-chorus was pretty catchy. Other than that Rocket in My Pocket lyric, can we retire it? Kiss did it a decade prior. Vinnie Vincent knew that Kiss did it a decade prior.
Well, it's a callback, dude. To an album he had nothing to do with.
Yeah, it's not a very good callback.
No, I'm just trolling. It's a bad lyric.
It's a bad lyric, and we should stop using it.
But just look at that very first lyric on that very first line on the lyrics. Heaven's like a fireball. Oh, heaven's on fire, huh?
Rocket in My Pocket is the Baby It's Cold Outside of glam rock lyrics.
So awesome. Also, I feel like there's other things about glam rock lyrics that are Baby It's Cold Outside. I feel like Making Love by Kiss is the Baby It's Cold Outside of glam rock lyrics. She says stop, baby, go, go, go.
No, yeah, all right. I mean, if we just want to limit it to, lyrics that are pretty explicitly about violating consent, then there's a lot of hair metal lyrics available to choose from.
That is the God's honest truth.
So yeah, Do You Want to Make Love? Any other comments on this track in particular?
They got all the words spelled correctly in the title.
That's true.
Ooh.
I think it's also a little bit autobiographical if you look at the third line of the first verse. Just one little lick and you want it all. Vinny, what are you trying to tell Paul about that album that you basically wrote for Kiss? I wonder. Oh, yeah. Lust, worship, and desire. If you want to go to heaven, there's a price you got to pay. Yeah, I think Vinny's sending Paul Stanley a message in this song.
Is he asking Paul to bang him? Because if so, they were both two of the hottest chicks in the 80s, so that'd be kind of hot.
I'm not going there.
Is the remarkably sexist drivel spouted by... or is it just a horrible mistake?
Did you customize that drop?
No, that's directly how it was in the original Simpsons episode that I found it in.
but no, adding in the Kiss bit.
Oh, yes. No, I did that. Forgot I had that one.
I didn't know you had that one.
Sorry, I just derailed everything.
It's okay. And for reference,
Yes, Paul Stanley and Vinnie Vincent are both delightful women.
I'm just going to toss this out there before anyone says I'm being transphobic. I have, when glammed up to its streams, looked in the mirror and then turned around because I thought I saw a hot chick and I saw myself. So I have nothing wrong with dudes dressing as hot chicks. That is tremendous, and America needs it right now.
But dudes dressing as ugly chicks, no, sir.
No, sir. No. Work out.
Steven Tyler would be offended by that statement.
So
I
next,
know, he's a pretty hot grandma.
yeah.
The I saw a couple of memes. One of them was "dude looks like a lady," and the other one was it was a picture of him with his hair pulled up, kind of in a man bun, with glasses on and a shirt on. And someone said, "Grandma, put your bra back on."
Oh, yeah, I've seen that one. He does look like a hot grandma.
Yeah, I mean, I met him once. Looked like a hot grandma. Forgot to tell him that, but
Really? You didn't say that thing that he's probably heard a bunch of times and thinks is pretty rude directly to his face? Weird.
No, he just complimented my top hat, then asked me to move.
That seems like that'd be a good conversation. Like, hey, nice top hat. Hey, you look like a grandma.
Right? Oh yeah, you were there that night.
Yeah.
All right. So just moving right along before we get
Footloose and fancy free.
yeah. Next up is No Substitute.
That was my number 2 pick.
Now it's a bit of a disappointing title for me because, you know, the Substitute film franchise is a fantastic action franchise that is full of so much enjoyment. So the fact that Vinny doesn't want to watch those movies is a bit of a bummer. But yeah, it's a catchy song. I think this is a song where this is one of the most disappointing tracks in the album because I want it to be better than it is. Because it starts off with that really good a cappella intro, and it's very melodic and pretty, and it doesn't go to the places I want it to, where I just feel it could be a little bit stronger. Like once the chords of the guitar start playing underneath that vocal, they don't mesh together as well. But I think the guitar playing on this track is very pretty, very Journey-esque. There's a band called Work of Art that this kind of reminds me of. Like, you know, Jeff Scott Soto kind of stuff. Like very melodic, very pretty, you know, and it's a cool track, and you know, it's like it's on the more melodic side of 80s rock, like that AOR kind of stuff. And I think it's a cool tune. It's just with the production of this album, you know, I know on the back they said no synthesizers were used anywhere on this album. This track could have used some synthesizers. This would have been really great to have some nice polished synths on this track and just really dig into that melodicism that the 80s bands were so good at. And so it's like, it's close but not quite there for me. But I really appreciate the change of pace this brought to the album.
Well, Crazy Nights proves that the synthesizer isn't necessarily a bad thing.
I agree with that. Well, you know, we'll see how Steve thinks about it when we get to that album. But I think Crazy Nights, like certain songs on that album, are perfect with synthesizers. Like Turn on the Night, perfect pop single, absolutely. Like there's some great stuff in that record. Love that record.
I'm gonna guess that album isn't actually just a cheesy 80s new wave album, is it?
No, it's
Dang it.
kind of comparable to like Heart's big comeback album in the 80s, if you heard that one.
I'm probably the singles from it.
Yeah, so just
Full of synth.
full of synthesizers.
Mm.
And they make the other sister sing.
Oh, snap.
She sounds good.
Oh, I agree, but the reason that they did it was because Nancy's the guitar player, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So you know, Nancy is quote unquote better looking than Ann. So for it's the big time in the music video industry.
Right, yeah.
Gotta have the hot chick up there singing.
I mean, yeah. But anyway, back to this hot chick we're talking about, Vinnie Vincent.
No Substitute is like when a dog eats your sparkle. and then takes a dump on the lawn. And it's still a dump, but it's got sparkles all over it.
Literally dump.
It literally is. It is my least favorite song on this album. I hate it. I hate everything about it. It's like a syrupy ballad that just never got anywhere. And I hate the sound on the chorus. It's like the phasing that comes in.
Oh, I love that.
I can't stand it. It drives me up the wall. I mean, it triggers me to go and eat sparkles.
I love sparkles, though.
Now y'all have to advertise this with #triggered.
Right? I mean, as a guy who wears sparkly outfits and a rainbow-colored jacket on stage, yeah, I dig this track. It's pretty fun.
I didn't realize that all the members of the Kiss Army got PTSD from their deployments. But, wait, I have that. Oh, no, where's my...
There we go.
There we go.
I appreciate, as D said, your glacial speed is...
Who said timing's everything?
Certainly not Vinnie Vincent on his solos.
Oh, hey-oh. So I ranked this one pretty high towards the top, actually, because I felt like this one, the production was different and really stood out for that. Like, it was a much better sonically realized version of what they were going for on this album. At least I hope what they were going for on this album. I hope they weren't going for, everything else is washed out and in the back, and then the solos are way up front. They probably did that.
They probably were doing that on purpose.
A little bit of that on purpose.
I mean, Vinnie really wanted to be the next Eddie Van Halen, the next Yngwie. He wanted to be a guitar hero. He wanted kids to look at him and be like, I can't believe how good of a guitar player he is. I want to be like him. Like, that's what he wanted. And I think, honestly, he kind of deserved that position as like a guitar player to aspire to like reach that level of technique. I showed a friend of mine, Vinnie Vincent, one time, and he was like just shocked at what a good player he was and couldn't believe he'd never heard of him. And it's because, he's doing music like this, which isn't going to elevate you to that level. Like he's not doing a Shrapnel Records instrumental release. He's doing this over-the-top, self-indulgent, ridiculous glam album with just insane soloing. And it doesn't have the songwriting
to make him like a popular icon the
right.
way that Eddie Van Halen was. And because it's in the context of popular music of the time, it's not going to make him an icon amongst the, he's not going to be a guitarist's guitarist for it. The same way that like the prog guitarists nowadays are. But,
in the 80s, it was a little bit different because you had guys like George Lynch in Dokken, and you had like Vito Bratta in White Lion, who became big guitar heroes for the generation. And they were in very, poppy commercial bands. And so I think...
because they were bands that were good at doing the poppy commercial thing.
Right. There were bands that were good at doing the poppy commercial thing. And so I think, what Vinnie tried to do artistically, I actually really respect. Like most, with our guitar player that we had, the joke I would say, he's like Vinnie Vincent, except he can't write a song to save his life, is what I would say, about our former guitarist. I think Vinnie is a great songwriter, but yeah, he does need, someone telling him, hey, Vinnie, that's a bad idea. He does need that push and pull. And someone to give him a little bit of direction to restrain him so that you really get, think about it. This guy played on Lick It Up. Think about how simple that song is and how there's not even really a solo to that. And I think this is, a really good example because Steve and I have gotten into, sort of debates musically in the past about complexity and when restraint is good. And I think this kind of shows why I have a lot of the musical philosophy that I do about why, restraint musically can be a really good thing. Because if you compare a song like Lick It Up to the rest of this album, I think, Steve, you'd probably be willing to say that the song Lick It Up is better than everything you've heard on this album.
Yeah.
And so I think this is a good example of like why restraint musically is important. And it's not about just what's fun for you to play, but what's fun for the listener to hear. Like, this is fun for me as almost like a gimmick album in a lot of ways, but I don't listen to Insane Shred all the time because, yeah, it's just, it is silly and it doesn't work as well, and the songs aren't as good.
Only when you need a laugh.
Yeah, there's not a time when I listen to this album and I don't laugh. Put this up with my Weird Al albums. Except I don't think the joke was on purpose, which...
Comedy record of the year, 1986, Vinnie Vincent Invasion.
But, by that same token, there's a lot of, and this might anger some Kiss fans, but that's the way I listen to a lot of, actual Kiss proper. Bang Bang You, I listen to the exact same way I listen to this album. And I love it, and I'm having a great time, but yeah, I'm laughing every single time I listen to the track.
Please tell me that Bang Bang You is about Gene Simmons going to a sexy, sexy college.
I wish that'd be so good.
I'm an alumni of Bang Bang You!
We'll get to that song in a couple albums, Steve. But yeah, any other comments on No Substitute?
I think it's a great pop song. I'm just the opposite of Julian here, I guess. But now the phase issue that he's talking about, I'll probably hear now, and it'll ruin the song for me. So thanks for that, buddy.
You're welcome. Anytime. If there's any other albums you want me to wreck for you, just give me a call.
Oh, right on.
Hey, Alan, I think the phasing is great, so I really disagree with Julian on that. I think that's one of the best parts of the production of this album is the phasing on the chorus in this track.
Well, I think Steven brought up a point earlier about the production. I think a lot of these albums people really, really like, or they really, really dislike specifically because of the production, and I listened to these albums before I even knew anything really about music production. So I never paid any attention to things like that. So the production on this, to me, is like the production on the Hotter Than Hell album. To me, that's part of the charm. That's the way I heard it the first time. That's the way I've heard it every time I've listened to it for 30, 40, however many years. And that's just the way it is. If you changed anything on it now, I would probably think that it sucked.
Well, that's actually a point I was actually just thinking of as you were saying that. When I was listening to the very best of Kiss, that was my big introduction to Kiss as a band. And most of the production was pretty similar up until we got to I Love It Loud. And then I actually didn't like the production on that track because all of a sudden, everything was drenched in reverb. And so my first introduction to 80s metal production, I didn't like. The sound of 80s, over, all the reverb and stuff, I didn't like it right away. So I Love It Loud, Lick It Up, and Forever on the very best of Kiss, I wasn't as into because I didn't like the production. And also the Hotter Than Hell tracks, which I just thought was just awful and would skip those immediately every time. Why does Got to Choose sound like such a terrible song? This is the worst. But, as I become a, fan of 80s music, I've learned to love that production and I adore it and think it's great. And so, I really enjoy the guitar tones on Poison albums and those, reverb-drenched drum sounds. And I dig that stuff now, but being completely honest, the first time I heard that stuff, I didn't really like it. And maybe it's because I had grown used to the drier, crunch of their 70s stuff, and then moving over to stuff like this didn't work for me. So, yeah, I can totally understand why someone wouldn't like this, because there was a time in my life where I didn't like stuff like this.
Okay, what were we talking about?
We were talking about No Substitute. Got a lot of discussion on this song. You know what? Let's move on to a classier cut on the album. Shoot You Full of Love is next on the list.
Oh, that's exactly how I described this song. Classy. I was being ironic, right, Greg?
Yes.
Okay.
This could have been a Prince song title. Down to the spelling of you with the letter U.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, it's interesting. If this was Prince with Prince production, the exact same song would probably be a really well-respected song by pop music critics. But because it's Vinnie Vincent, this is despised and considered terrible.
Yep, sounds about right.
Yeah, sounds about right. But yeah, I think the song's great. I love it. It's it is this is the song that really made me realize what Robert Fleischman was going for as a vocalist on this album. Where it's like, oh, he's trying to be Robert Plant, but not doing a great job of being Robert Plant because he's not offering like dynamics in his range the way that Robert Plant would. But he's trying to go through he's trying to do like Zeppelin on steroids, including like your testicles shrinking and therefore like having a higher pitched voice. Like, you know, so that's what they're.
That's totally not how that even works physiologically.
But you know, that's what he's going for, Zeppelin on steroids. And this is just, I think this is one of the catchier songs on the album. It's got good riffs, good groove, and you know, better space with the vocals and the guitars. Like, it works better as a cohesive musical piece. And so, yeah, I like this tune a lot. I think it's goofy like the rest of the album, but hey, it's a cool song. I like it.
Well, the title of the song is, in my opinion, done that way to be completely tongue-in-cheek.
Well, I think, so here's the trick with a lot of glam I've found is it's hard to tell whether or not glam is done tongue-in-cheek or completely serious, especially like in the greater Kiss camp. Like the song Take Me. Like, is that tongue-in-cheek or was that sincerely thinking these are cool lyrics?
Vinnie Vincent just really, like, he's got too much candy cane and he needs it broken in half so he can share it.
But, I mean, yeah, I sincerely love this track. Like, once again, laughing every time I listen to it. So this is a really good album to put me in a good mood. Like, Vinnie Vincent. All right, yeah, let's do this.
Is this a Christmas song?
Yeah, you know, Merry Christmas, everybody, by the way, as this comes out in January or something. Merry Christmas, guys. But yeah,
I think you offended our guests. They wanted you to say Happy Holidays, Greg.
Oh, sorry. Happy Holidays. Sorry. My bad.
I'm too old to get offended by stupid little things like that.
Oh, humbug.
Sorry.
So what do you guys think of Shoot You Full of Love? I mean, songs about like semen splattering everywhere. That's great, right?
Second favorite song on the album. I love this one. I love the version that Mark actually recorded of it. Everything about it that was kind of taken, you know, from the school of same lyrics that Warrior had in the demo that he had with the with the songs he wrote with Kiss. It's just in there. This is the over-the-top Vinnie that I can handle and that I appreciate, that I like. I'll listen to this song, you know, to this day on a regular basis, not just the Warrior demo that it was built from. Love every part of it. You know, come on, break my candy cane. Love it.
That just sounds like it would hurt. Like, as someone who has been rocked very hard by women on top of me, like, breaking your candy cane, just like, I don't want to think about that.
What 15-year-old wouldn't like someone to do that challenge on him? Yeah, go on. No, break me.
Look, like, as someone whose penis has been sore from amazing fucking, I don't know, man. I don't know if I want that challenge. Maybe I'm too old for that.
Too old for the candy cane break challenge. 28.
I've become too old for that.
You know, they did turn it into a game, Candy Crush. Yeah, there you go.
You gotta pay to get more moves, though.
All right. So ready to move on to that song? Any other comments?
I think honestly, I meant to rank this one at the bottom. I just screwed up copy pasting, so I only ranked it third from the bottom, just for those Simmons-esque lyrics.
Yep. Although range-wise, this probably would have had to have been a Paul song.
Yeah, that's fair. Poor Gene. His reach exceeds his grasp.
Although, you know what? Paul probably would have loved singing this because it's so Zeppelin-esque. And he is such a huge Zeppelin nerd. Would be like, yes! Shoot you full of love. I'm just like Robert Plant. And wouldn't have realized the difference in quality.
Song's about my love gun, I guess. Again.
All right, so next up on the list, Steve's favorite song on the album, Baby O.
It's true.
That was my number 8.
Yeah, I think this was one of the more melodic ones. I think he focused more on singing good notes than on singing high notes in this one, and it really helped this song a lot.
That's exactly what I'm thinking, is that, you know, like, Do You Want to Make Love and No Substitute tried to go into that more mellow kind of range. Baby O is the only place where it works for me.
I think Baby O, I mean, I do like all these songs, but I think ultimately, it benefits from a really great chorus, but the verses are just okay for me. It's not as strong as a lot of the other cuts on the album overall.
Baby okay?
Yeah, Baby Okay would be my title for this one. Yeah, it's good, and I wouldn't rag on it, but I personally think it's ranked way too high. Like, the big shock of this album for me is how low Invasion ranked, just because I think that is, like, a standout, like, actual great cut, even if you don't just like troll music like I do. Like, unironically awesome. This one is still in the ironically awesome camp, I guess.
Is this a Dean Martin cover?
Sadly not.
I'm trying to look up the lyrics, and that's what it's suggesting.
But yeah, I'm ready to move on from Baby O. I've got nothing else to say about it.
Well, dang. All right.
So next up on the list, we have the number 2 song on the album. I voted this as my number 1. And I think it is the song that best defines Vinnie Vincent and the Vinnie Vincent Invasion and his solo music. It's Boys Are Gonna Rock, next on the list.
Yeah, there's a lot of number 2s on this album.
I was waiting for that joke.
With sparkles.
With sparkles.
It doesn't matter whether you put it has corn in it or it has peanuts in it. It's still a number 2.
Or has perfume on it.
I feel like perfume does kind of matter.
Yeah, it does kind of matter. This to me is this song defines what this album is. As soon as you listen to the song, you know exactly what kind of album you're going to be listening to.
Yeah.
And it is ridiculous, over the top, awful sexual lyrics. Vocals so high that, I'm sure we're missing some notes that only dogs can hear. Ridiculous soloing. And just like such an over the top video with them like destroying all the amps and like the guy on fire at the end, and just how over the top the look of the band is, the hot pink, the bright colors. This song defines like the ridiculousness of Vinnie Vincent as a human being, as an artist, as an entity. It defines the album. This is just like, it is one of the most ridiculous songs in hair metal. Like, it exemplifies the genre and then almost parodies it, goes to the extreme. And yeah, the chorus is catchy, but not as melodic as I typically like. But because it's so, like, jarring and weird and uncomfortable, and has that, descending, tension that Vinnie often does musically, it works so well as a cohesive piece, where this just defines Vinnie Vincent so perfectly for me, where, like, it's probably not the actual best written song on the album. It's certainly in the top 3 for me. But like as a song, it might not be the best song, but it best defines who Vinnie Vincent is, what this album is. And when I think about Vinnie Vincent as an individual, I think about the Boys Are Gonna Rock video. I think about this song, that ridiculous solo where the first time you hear it, you're like, oh, seriously? That's what he's going for? All right. And also as a songwriter, it's impressive to me how he, I believe this was originally like And on the 8th Day, this song, where the verses for On the 8th Day led into the chorus of Boys Are Gonna Rock. And then he wrote brand new verses that worked even better than the verses on the 8th Day would have worked for this song. So that to me as a songwriter really impressed me. So yeah, this is my number 1 on the album. This is the song I think of when I think about Vinnie Vincent, and I think it's hilarious, silly, but I love it.
Now, this takes me back to the point I was trying to make about Poison, glam circa 1986. Go and play this video, and then go and play the video for Talk Dirty to Me. Sorry.
Yeah, that's restrained in comparison.
Yeah, that the one is thin sounding, almost college frat boys having fun, versus someone who actually believes in what he's doing. Look at that video. Is there any doubt that Vinnie didn't believe every single note that he performed on that album where it went? No, there's a complete difference. The one's a bunch of posers, and the other is a guy who actually was nuts.
Vinnie Vincent is a real sex shooter.
I'm going to stick for Poison. I don't think they're posers. I think a lot of those 80s hair bands get a lot of unnecessary flack. They were just a bunch of kids in bands working hard on the strip, trying to make it. And, you know, I've met Brett before. Very nice, very sincere guy. He's a good friend of my good friend Billy Morris. And so I'm going to stick up for those guys. I don't think they're posers. I think they're a very sincere band. I think with Poison in particular, they were not phenomenal players. They were average players. And I think they came out, they were so successful and weren't like as good at their instruments as other people in the same genre. And
they
I
don't
think
need
that's
to
where
be.
they got the
They totally
flack.
don't need to. Look at Kiss. Look at Kiss. Kiss were not phenomenal players in the 70s when you put them next to, you know, Alex Lifeson or, you know, maybe Joe Perry, you know, so they don't have to be great players. I'm going back to when I was 14 and I saw, you know, Poison. You know, I'm not insulting them, you know, deliberately to be rude to Brad or to CC, you know, or Ricky or Bobby, you know, so I do remember their names. It's just, there was something with them, with the way they were dressed up, that they were acting a part. Yeah, they were having fun. They were having good fun time. How many times did I watch those videos on MTV back in the day? A lot. I never changed the channel, but I didn't like that band. And that was kind of the difference in, you know, when Vinnie comes out and is blowing up amps, is blowing up everything, is pissing on his guitar after he's cut a solo, that there's just a different level of kind of belief in the music. I mean, it almost goes back to the early 70s and Slade. Slade was fun. Slade was having a laugh. Slade was closer to Poison than it is to, you know, Vinnie Vincent Invasion. And that's just where I'm really trying to come from, is that the belief that one of them are acting a part, they're having fun, it's like, haha, you know, kind of a lark. And the other is a guy who actually, that's the reality of Vinnie Vincent's head that you're seeing in the video for Boys Are Gonna Rock.
So almost like Slade versus New York Dolls, where Slade is like, yeah, we know this is goofy, and like I think there's a sense of self-awareness. So maybe Poison had self-awareness where like, yeah, you know, we like Sweet and Slade and Kiss and Alice Cooper and we want to emulate our heroes, but we kind of know how silly this is.
Yeah,
Vinnie has
we can
sense of
laugh at
self-awareness.
ourselves.
Right.
Yeah, we can laugh at ourselves, and Vinnie's like, no, I believe in this.
I sincerely believe that the boys are gonna rock.
So wait, is the takeaway that like self-awareness is bad? That we should unironically play terrible glam metal?
Shoot, that's what we've been doing wrong this whole time, Steve.
Oh yeah, I mean, you shouldn't have hired me if you didn't want any irony in the band, Greg.
I mean, you heard what I was doing already. Like, the irony was already there. There just might be too much irony now.
Hey, baby, it's cold outside.
Diet and Steve is high in irony.
So, Steve, what do you think of Boys Are Gonna Rock? Did you see the video?
I think I did.
Remember with the man on fire at the end?
Not recently, but you have shown it to me before. And, yeah, I don't remember much about it. I think it sort of blurs together with a lot of those, you know, hair metal music videos that I've seen once or twice. They're like, all right, these guys are like hanging out in a junkyard, things are on fire, they're playing their guitars, they've spent a lot of time on their hair.
I mean, there's a lot of pink in that video. It doesn't look anything like a junkyard. It is fluorescent pink all over the place and giant walls of Marshall stacks. It's pretty ridiculous. But so, Alan, I don't think we got your thoughts on Boys Are Gonna Rock. And I guess, Julian, we kind of just got your thoughts on like the sincerity of it, but like as a composition, what do you think of this one?
As a composition, I mean, it's fine. It's a recycle of the original Boys Are Gonna Rock with the parts stripped out for On the Eighth Day with other stuff, you know, added in. And I agree with what was said earlier, that the stuff that was added back in is superior to what was taken out, you know, and used on the Kiss album. So it's a much better song. It's, you know, it's in the middle for me because there are songs I just do like, you know, more that I think are stronger songs, but I think compositionally it's a perfect representation of Vinnie lyrically, melodically, musically, all throughout.
And I think it was a great album opener. It was my number 3 on this list. This album list was Boys Are Gonna Rock, but for an album opener, I think they couldn't have picked a better song to start it with.
Yeah, I mean, I think this defines Vinnie. Like, is there a track that you would like say better defines Vinnie Vincent as a musician than Boys Are Gonna Rock?
No, absolutely not. You know, if I could have a perfect transfer of that video up on YouTube, if someone's got an original, that would make my day. That is the best representation of Vinnie anywhere.
Like, for better or for worse, it is just like, this is what Vinnie Vincent is. You know, take it or leave it. He's this weird guy who will probably sue you for whatever, you know, frivolous reason, and he's going to wear fluorescent pink and, you know, not nowadays, but, you know, back in the day could shred up a storm. Like, that's just what he is. Take it or leave it.
Yeah, I'm just watching this video right now,
I think
and
we all are.
oh my God! I mean, that is everything I said. You know, comparing it to Talk Dirty to Me, him sitting there ringing his guitar, Bobby going nuts. Oh my God!
Doesn't he lick the guitar in this video?
I don't know what he doesn't do to the guitar. It certainly wasn't pink when he was done with it.
Ew.
But yeah.
I like how clearly his hair is a wig.
Yeah, it's pretty clearly a wig.
That is so I guess he didn't get paid enough in Kiss to afford a really nice wig.
I mean, I think the wig
ironic.
is charming. I think that's like, all of this is just, it adds to the charm. Like, this is the most extreme version of hair metal. Like, Steve, imagine if I showed this to Michelle, how much she would hate everything that is going on here.
Yep, she would hate the entire thing.
Like, or Steve Edwards, or most humans.
Yep. Anybody who's not just super enamored with hair metal.
Right. Or like without like the sense of humor. Like, if you have a good sense of irony, you might have a lot of fun with this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm gonna read through the ranking as we get to the number one song on this list, as you watch Vinnie Vincent lick himself. So coming in as from the bottom to the top, I Wanna Be Your Victim, Animal, Twisted, Invasion, Do You Wanna Make Love, No Substitute, Shoot You Full of Love, Baby O, Boys Are Gonna Rock. But the best song on Vinnie Vincent Invasion, according to this panel, is Back on the Streets.
Was this everyone's number one pick?
I put it 2.
I put it 2.
Well, y'all are wrong.
I mean, honestly, the top 3 were a very tough decision for me, where I think Invasion is probably the best actual rock song on the album. Where when I'm just wanting like just, you know, cool rock riffs and, oh yeah, he's licking the guitar. Sorry. And
broke the cymbals.
Yeah, just broke the cymbals. Yeah, this is getting derailed by, he just shoved, the amps are exploding.
The drummer is exploding.
Yes, there's the man on fire.
Was this music video before or after this is Spinal Tap?
After.
Oh, so they got the idea for the drummer exploding from them.
Yes.
From
I think he just bit a chunk out of his guitar, and that was smashing it. Once again, Vinnie Vincent's image completely derailing any discussion of the music. That's never once happened on the internet.
Right?
All right. Oh, man, he looks so angry. Freaking Bobby Rock is just upset at those drums.
Oh, he's back in the same pose he was in the beginning of the video. That's a good callback.
All right. So back on the street. So Invasion is just a sincerely good rock song. Boys Are Gonna Rock is a good song, not as good as maybe Invasion or Back in the Streets as songs, but is so good at defining Vinnie Vincent as a person, musician, as a character, where that's why it's my number one, and I think is the most essential track on this album. But then Back on the Streets, as like a song goes, like not worrying about whether it's a rock song or a silly over-the-top song. I think this is the best written piece of music on the album.
And it's probably because it's basically The Zoo by the Scorpions.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of The Zoo, although I think this might... I'm trying to remember what year The Zoo... No, I think The Zoo came out first. Like, the demo of this might have predated The Zoo, but I think that still came out first.
I mean, they're different enough that if, you know, I were a jury, I'd be like, yeah, these are different songs. There's a clear influence, but I wouldn't, you know, like, give anyone any money over it.
Right. But what I would say is this song, I think was originally it was a Kiss demo for Creatures of the Night with Paul singing it, and I think it would have sounded great on that album. But I love Vinnie's voice on this track. I think I would have preferred to have Vinnie sing the entire track rather than have him duetting with Robert, because I think Vinnie's vocals are so phenomenal on the song. And it's great to hear a lead vocal from him and to hear that, yes, the guy does have a nice voice. Is there a lot of power behind it? Not necessarily, but good tonality. It's very clear. And it's pretty. It's catchy. There's punch to it. Big chorus. The soloing is woefully out of place because it's so over the top like the rest of the album. And this could have been a very powerful single. Like, this could have been a hit. Could have sold the album. But I think I think Robert's vocals were probably too over the top when it switched to Robert singing. And I think that the solo was too over the top for it to be really commercial for radio. But I love the song. I think it's great.
Well, I'll jump in on the vocal thing. I like the way Vinnie did it. I like the way they swap off vocals. That's Gene and Paul did that on several songs, and most of the time it seemed to work really well. And that's the swap vocals is one of the things that I like about this song. As for the guitar solo, I don't give a shit about that one way or the other. But, you said this was demoed for Kiss originally. As a collector of demos and stuff, that is the holy grail for a lot of collectors, I guess you would say. For me, it'd be a holy grail just to be able to hear Paul singing this song, whether there's a recording of it that anybody has or not. I would just love to hear the dude sing it, because it seems to me like it was written for Paul.
Yeah, it feels like it'd be a perfect fit. And the thing is, my issue with the trading off vocals is that I think Robert's vocals on this track sound a lot like Vinnie's vocals, but just him singing higher pitched. And so there's not enough contrast in their voice other than just the notes they're singing. Like, a lot of the tonality is too similar for me. Like, they're both very clean vocalists. And so that's why I would have preferred just a single vocalist, because that would also make the lyrical message stronger for me. But it's not that Robert's vocals are bad. I think they're quite good. It's just I think their voices are too similar in terms of like the tone of the voice for it to really like mesh well as a duet, personally.
I get that.
So, Julian, you hated this. Why do you hate America?
It's because I prefer the demo. And maybe, it's because Vinnie canceled Memphis or rescheduled Memphis. And this was the song I was most looking forward to him performing all of acoustically, and then telling me all about the song in his own words, and then pulling out that cassette of the version with Paul singing it and plugging it into a deck and sharing it with us. No, it's a great song. It
Wait,
really
you heard
is.
That? Wait, you heard the Paul version?
No, I'm saying if he whipped out a cassette.
Oh, you're saying that's like the fantasy.
The fantasy, was
that's
going to Memphis.
That's an Aldo Nova song, actually.
Just going to Memphis and having him sing this song all himself, like he does on the original 81 demo, before Kiss had anything to do with him. So it's the version on this album that, we talked about Gene and Paul's trading off vocals on certain Kiss songs working very well. I don't think that Robert and Vinnie worked well trading off vocals on this song. Robert's responses are just out of place on it. And maybe it's just because over the years I've become just so used to listening to that demo version. And there have been so many freaking versions of this song anyway. I mean, this was one that had been out on the Voyage of the Rock Alien soundtrack, cut by a band called Three Speeds. I listened to that quite a lot over the years. John Norum did a version of it. Ace Frehley did a version of it. So I just go back to the demo. And then when we get to this album, it's like, no, it's got too much going on in it. It's ruined. In essence, it's an incredible song that I think is not well represented by the version that appears on this album.
So wait, Ace did this?
Yeah, Ace cut a demo of it in '84.
Whoa, is it good?
Not particularly.
I mean, I kind of figured, but All right, well that's cool that he likes covering Vinnie Vincent era songs.
He didn't know that it was Vinny's.
Sounds like Ace. But with me, and I think Steve can attest to this, typically with our episodes, production doesn't weigh into a song as much as the composition does.
Or rather, you say that. I think it's probably not as true as you think it is.
It's
but,
not. It's.
But that is your intent.
That is my intent, and there is a degree where production does obviously take a role because arrangement is part of writing and how it comes across through the recording. So I guess what I'm saying is more often than maybe other panelists I found personally is that I'm able to look past something I don't like on the recording if I like the overall experience of the song. Would you agree with that statement, Steve?
Probably, yeah.
Where I'd say, like, hey, I don't like the way that Paul Stanley sings this song, but I still think it's a good song, and so I'll look past a weaker vocal because I think the song overall is good. Like Odyssey from The Elder, as an example. So, and, being human, I am flawed. I can't, be completely, subjective with my opinions.
Objective.
Yeah. Either one. You know the word I meant to use.
Sometimes facts influence my opinions when I don't intend them to.
Right, exactly.
Bastard facts.
And so, taking it for what it is, I think this is a song that I'm very happy with winning this episode. I think it deserves to be in the top 3. And I think it's a great piece. I think it's well written. It shows that Vinnie is a good songwriter, and with different production, this song, probably could have been a hit, could have shined really well for a different artist. And I think it's the thing that's fascinating about Vinnie. It's that he's not like he is a mixed bag. It would be very easy to say, oh, this guy's complete shit and everything he does is awful. But there's so many moments of brilliance that come out of Vinnie Vincent where his soloing is a little ridiculous, but it is well played. And he can write an amazing song, and he can sing well, or could, in many of these cases. And I think that's what makes Vinnie so fascinating for fans, is because he is this enigma where it is hard to wrap your brain around this guy who has so many great qualities and also so many terrible qualities. And I think that's, helped build up the mystique of who Vinnie Vincent is. Crickets.
No, man, that was beautiful. This
is an outrage. I'm going to go yell at the manager.
Thanks, Steve.
That's just what I had queued up. I didn't have the crickets anywhere nearby.
I'm sorry, Julian, you were saying.
I was just busy having tears running down my face from the beauty of what you were saying.
But, that's also, part of, to reach out to the greater world of Kiss. Kind of what makes the band fascinating too is the different characters and, the different pros and cons of each personality. And, would Kiss, I don't think Kiss wouldn't be nearly as interesting to me if it was just the original 4 guys. If it wasn't for people like Eric Carr, Vinnie Vincent, Mark St. John, Bruce Kulick, I wouldn't care about Kiss nearly as much. And I can very safely say that. Kiss would probably not be in my top 10 favorite bands if it was just from the first album to Love Gun. They wouldn't. They'd be good. They'd be very solid. And I'd be like, yeah, Kiss is a great band. But if not for Vinnie Vincent and Bruce Kulick, they wouldn't make it into the top 10. So this is important in the Kiss gumbo for me.
Oh, it's absolutely critical. Vinnie Vincent is the crazy cat lady of the Kiss family tree. You've got mom, you've got dad, you've got the 2 kids, and then you've got the crazy aunt.
Crazy Ankh. And that's the trick. Is the Thanksgiving that she ruins, that's the one you remember.
Right, and then, your crazy Uncle Peter ruins Christmas by shooting the Christmas tree with a shotgun.
Right?
But yeah, I love this album. I think it's great, and I would wholly recommend it to everyone who hates hair metal, because that will make them hate hair metal even more and never give the genre a chance again after this album.
Och, 'tis a mighty pottle of puke.
That's my synopsis.
So, general thoughts on wrapping this up. Were you guys happy with the ranking? Anyone surprised by it? The only surprise I had was Invasion being as low as it was.
I was surprised by how many of my votes lined up with Allen's, so very specifically.
I get the feeling you read my rankings backwards.
I mean, that's just what the overall panel came up with. According to what I have here, Back on the Streets got 3 points from you. Is that correct?
That's right.
Yeah, so I mean, I didn't read them backward. It's just the rest of us ruined your ranking.
I really am backwards, and it's me that's backwards, not the ranking. Okay, that's good to know.
I mean,
but not surprising.
You're on a panel with myself and Steve,
It's
so
true.
you're probably actually right. And then Alan is just, sorry, Alan, you're probably wrong too.
We probably shouldn't have decided that, the 2 spoiler votes should be the hosts.
I mean, am I really the spoiler vote?
Not as often as I am, no. Sorry, Alan, you were saying?
I said, I think, to be honest, we're all wrong. So that if there's that.
We're all wrong because we all intentionally listened to this. I should stop saying such mean-spirited things about it.
You know who's the most wrong? Probably me, because I paid $40 for Speedball Jam when I was in high school.
Oh, I gotta play that drop.
I do cocaine!
Because I said, I have to get it. It's rare. It's a collector's item. And
Yeah.
so who's the most wrong? Probably me.
Oh, good times. I don't know. I feel like you've gotten your $40 worth of enjoyment out of that album.
I really have. I've gotten a lot of enjoyment out of that album. Actually, any CD I've spent that much on, which is basically my import Crash Diet CDs, and my the import Crash Diet CDs, which I have 2 of them. They're both great records. And I've got Vinnie Vincent Speedball Jam and Jim Steinman's Tans de Vampire. And you know how much I love all of those albums.
It's true, you do.
So, yeah, totally worth it. All of those. I made sure I picked my imports very carefully. Oh, yes.
As long as you're happy with them, that's what's important. Who cares?
I mean, yeah, German vampire musical is sick, bro. So, yeah, let's do some plugs. Alan, where can people find you on the internet?
You can find us at agesofrock.com. We drop a new episode almost every Thursday. About 3 or 4 times a year, we get our heads up our asses or life gets in the way, But for the most part, every Thursday, catch a new episode from us.
And Julian, where can people find you and your excellent works?
I'm a whore. I'm everywhere. Basically, kissfaq.com if I'm not, asleep on your lawn after throwing up and pooping sprinkles.
Oh, and I totally forgot the thesis question I wanted to do this episode, but I'm going to do it now. Would Animalize have been better with Vinnie Vincent and some of these songs as Kiss songs?
Hell yeah.
Alan, how about you? Do you think Animalize would have been better with Vinnie Vincent?
Yeah, I'll go with Julian's answer.
Hell yeah.
And Steve, how about you?
Let me scroll through my Animalized notes because it's been a while since we recorded that one. I think if you cherry picked between the 2 albums, you could probably grab maybe 2 or maybe even 3 songs from Vinnie Vincent Invasion that, if done with Animalize's production and attention to recording a hair metal album correctly, would have made it a stronger album.
So, all right, and yeah, even though I like Mark St. John and Animalize, I will agree. So there you go. You got to visit the alternate parallel reality where what if Vinnie Vincent had done Animalize? Much better album. Steve, where can people find us on the internet?
They can find us on lipstickgeneration.com and wherever they found this podcast. I don't know where you did that, but there's probably more episodes nearby. I should have not put that one right next to my applause drop.
That's our episode. Bye. Good job implying that we're shit, Steve.
We're glittery shit, though.